Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a pretty exciting journey to master PHP. The goal here is simple. We're taking you from an absolute beginner to a confident coder. Even if you've just tinkered with a little HTML, or maybe you're totally new to the backend, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down everything you need to know to get started with what is, honestly, one of the absolute most powerful languages on the web.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll meet our back-end friend, PHP. Then, we'll demystify how server-side magic actually works. After that, we're setting up your local server environment, writing your very first script, and finally, we'll cover some absolutely crucial security and database basics. Let's jump right in.
So before we look at a single line of code, I want you to think about the limitations of a standard static website. If you're just using HTML and CSS, every single user sees the exact same static page, right? But have you ever wondered how a website remembers your specific login or how it loads a totally personalized social media feed just for you? Well, plain HTML just can't do that. PHP is the engine that actually solves this by generating dynamic, customized content on the fly. It's a real game changer.
All right, Section 1. Meet your back-end friend. Let's get a proper introduction to PHP.
So PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. But what does that actually mean for us? Well, basically, it means it's a server-side tool. All the heavy lifting, the calculations, fetching stuff from the database, all of that happens entirely behind the scenes on a web server before it ever reaches your screen. Your browser just gets the finished HTML product. And the best part? It's completely open source and free to use.
And to give you an idea of its massive footprint, PHP powers over 77% of all websites globally. I mean, that is literally a staggering number. From tech giants like Facebook to the core of WordPress, which itself runs a huge chunk of the web, learning PHP essentially means you're learning the language of the modern internet.
Now, when you compare PHP to other heavy hitters out there, its unique focus becomes really clear. For instance, Python is incredibly fast for things like data science and AI, while JavaScript is absolutely essential for interactive front-end elements right there in the browser. But PHP, it was built specifically for the web from day one. Because of this, it's supported by virtually every shared hosting service on the planet. That makes it incredibly easy and cheap to get your website live without having to mess with complex server configurations.
Moving on to Section 2, how server-side magic works. Let's look at the request cycle.
I like to think of this 6-step workflow kind of like a visit to a restaurant. First, your browser, that's the customer, orders from the menu by clicking a link. Second, the web server acts as the waiter, taking your request right to the back. Third, PHP is your chef. It reads the order, and if it needs to, in Step 4, it goes into the database pantry to grab specific ingredients. Think of those ingredients as your profile picture or your direct messages. In Step 5, the chef plates the meal, generating plain dynamic HTML. And finally, in Step 6, the waiter brings that finished HTML page right back to your browser window. You never actually see the chef cooking. You just get to enjoy the meal.
Okay, Section 3, setting up your server. It is time to build your local environment.
So to write PHP, you can't just open a file in your browser like you would with HTML. You actually need a server. But thankfully, it is super simple to mimic a real web server right on your personal computer using a free program called XAMPP. Once you download and install XAMPP, it instantly gives you an Apache server environment locally. But pay attention here, because this is the golden rule for organizing your project files. Your code literally must live inside a specific folder called htdocs. Create your project folder right in there, and make sure you save your file with the .php extension. And here's the kicker. To actually see it work, you do not double-click the file. No way. You open your web browser and type localhost/ followed by your file name. That's exactly how you tell XAMPP to run your code.
Which brings us to Section 4, writing your first script. Let's dive into some PHP syntax. All right, check out the typed language. You see, in some programming languages, if you want to store a number, you have to explicitly tell the computer, hey, this is a number. And if you want to store text, you must declare, this is a string. PHP is way more flexible than that. It automatically figures out if your variable is text or a number at runtime based entirely on what you assign to it. Honestly, this makes it incredibly friendly and forgiving when you're just starting out.
But, there is a bit of a catch to loose typing. While it's super easy, as you advance in your coding journey, it can sometimes lead to sneaky little bugs, like accidentally adding the word 3 to the number 5. So, starting with PHP 7, developers introduced something called strict mode. When you enable this, PHP actually forces your data types to match perfectly.
So if a function expects a number and you give it text, it throws a fatal error immediately. Learning to use strict mode as you grow is going to help you write much cleaner, professional-level code for sure.
Okay, moving to our final section. Section 5, Security and Databases. Let's see how this powers modern web apps. Think of PHP as the secure bridge between your user and your database. Imagine you're building a basic contact form. A user types their email into a standard HTML input box. When they hit submit, a PHP script conceptually grabs that data using the $_post variable, connects straight to a MySQL database, and uses an insert command to safely and permanently store their message right into a database table. On top of that, PHP also handles session cookies, so a user stays logged in as they click around your site, and it encrypts passwords so sensitive data always remains protected.
But because PHP talks directly to your databases, you absolutely have to lock the doors. Hackers love to use techniques like SQL injection to sneak malicious commands into those contact forms we just talked about. To stop this from happening, you should always use PHP's prepared statements. These automatically sanitize form data before it ever reaches your database. Remember, security isn't just an afterthought. It's a fundamental part of the job from literally day one.
Well, thank you for joining this explainer. You now understand the service cycle. Your local XAMPP environment is all organized inside that HTTP docs folder. And you know the exact syntax to execute code right in your browser using localhost. The path from zero to hero is totally clear, and your tools are ready to go. So the only question left for us today is, what incredible dynamic web application are you going to build first? Happy coding!